guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Sam and welcome to Booktober, day 11. How are we doing? Pushing through. I'm doing alright. The tax deadline is quickly approaching and therefore work is, crunch time, but soon chill again, which I'm looking forward to. Today, though, is not related to work at all, or taxes, thank God. Actually, we will be talking about some of my favorite audiobooks ever. Now, I am primarily an audiobook reader. I love audiobooks. They get me through my day. I listen to them constantly. I can listen to upwards of 2 or 3 in a workday if I try really hard, and if they're not too long. I usually listen to audiobooks. It is my favorite way of reading. Even a physical book, I still want the audiobook. I still want a tandem read. It is just my preferred way. It's so enjoyable. I love audiobooks. I love being immersed with somebody reading me the story and just how involved it can get me. So we're going to talk about some of my absolute favorite books that I read via audio because the production's just so good. And I can understand people who either can't listen to audiobooks for one reason or another, which is totally fine. But I do find that sometimes audiobooks that have very high productions behind them can sometimes be a little bit distracting, but also it's a very cool immersion experience that I do enjoy. I'm also not super picky about my narrators anymore. I listen to audiobooks quicker than the average person, and so I kind of get used to them after the first hour. It's just any other person talking to me. So I'm not too harsh. This year on my reading tracker, I started rating the audiobook experience because I wanted to have this kind of knowledge if anybody asked me in the future of like what things I recommend. A lot of the audiobooks that I read are 3 and 4 stars, but there's a few 5 stars, absolute bangers, and we're going to talk about some of them today. So the first one I'm going to shout out is an Audible exclusive series, which is why I kind of want to get out of the way now because it's the least accessible for people. Audible is nice in terms of they have exclusive audiobooks that you can't find anywhere else, not even a library, which I appreciate having access, but it is very annoying having to pay $15 a month for one singular credit or spending a ridiculous amount of money on an audiobook. I know that Libro FM is very popular and is a good competitor, but either way, Audible exclusives are a pain because you can only get them there. So the series that I love is The Bridge Kingdom by Daniel Jensen. And, oh, they're so good. The production is so fun. There's little, cannon sound effects, which I think can be distracting, but I'm a sucker for it. I love in between each chapter where it's like, boom, boom. And I like the narrators that have been chosen for the dual perspective. I enjoyed that each duology within the series has had different narrators to, make them not sound too much of the same. But I do appreciate that they are actually in the Audible Plus catalog, which means that they are basically free. You don't have to pay for them. They're just there. We'll be getting the 5th book 6 months prior to it being released on paperback, and it's free. I don't have to pay for it. It's just a part of my subscription. So I do like it for the fact that I don't have to pay for it. It's just there as a bonus for having the subscription. Yeah, I just wanted to shout out The Bridge Kingdom because it was a very fun romantasy series to listen to. I find that most romantasy books are either really good audiobooks or absolute trash, and most of the time they're pretty good, at least the ones that I have read. And this one is no exception. The next one following the romantasy train will be Bow Before the Elf Queen by J.M. Curl. This is a series narrated by Bridget Bardot and Jake Bardot. Are they siblings? Are they married? I don't know. I'm not looking into narrators because that seems personal, but that was interesting that they had the same last name. These are some of my favorite audiobooks because I love these books. It's hard not to fall in love with a book and love the narration. It could have great production, but if it's not a great book, you might not love it as much. Bow Before the Elf Queen series. There's 3 out of 4 books currently published and available, and I love the way that they interject in each other's chapters. That was the first time that I experienced it, so it's very notable for me and definitely stands out the way that they would talk dialogue for themselves in the other person's chapter. It is just but also they're very good narrators and performers, and I also just love the book series. So it's an all-around win for me. I love them so much. They're just good voices. The next book that I want to shout out is The Night Swim by Megan Golding, narrated by Bailey Carr, January Lavoie, and Samantha Des. I really enjoyed The Night Swim. The narration and production is very good behind it because The Night Swim is a story about a podcaster going to a trial and reporting on said trial while also having somebody else involved trying to get a different crime solved by the podcaster. And I really like it because when the podcast shifts, you get the little jingles and like it a definitely distinct tone where you know that this is a different segment from the rest of the book. It's not the same narration style. And I really, really appreciate that. But I do trigger warnings. The Night Swim does deal with some heavy topics of SA and everything, and so I just want you to be prepared going into it that it is heavy and dark, but it is also a very good, well-written story, and I really enjoyed it. Along the lines of a podcast element, I have to absolutely shout out The Weight of Blood by Tiffany D. Jackson, narrated by J.D. Jackson, Sarah Molo Christensen, Joy Nash, Christopher Salazar, and Karen Molina White. Incredible. This is such a fun audiobook experience. This is one of those audiobooks that I listened to in one singular night during daylight savings, and I just didn't sleep until like 5 in the morning, and I just listened to it from when I went to bed all the way until the end of, like, until the book ended, and then I went to bed at like 5 or something crazy in the morning, and it was so fantastic. I absolutely, like, one, it's a Carrie retelling, it's a good story, but when you have the elements of, like, the news anchors reporting on what's happening at the prom, and you've got this, like, podcast-like element with the jingle and very distinct voices that are different from the main character, and then there's the friends who are also, like, giving interview, like, critiques. I think mixed media lends itself so well to an audiobook experience, and that's just something that I really, really enjoy. So The Weight of Blood is definitely up there. Oh, it is so fantastic. And it's also just a good book, so I do recommend the audiobook. And following in the mixed media, I'm segueing into another book that has mixed media. Oh my gosh, I'm really good at this, can you tell? Another book that has interviews in it that just sound fantastic is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. Narrators being Bailey Carr, Marissa Kalin, Michael Crouch, Gopal Divan, I'm so sorry for all these names that I may or may not be butchering, Robert Fass, Kevin R. Free, Sean Patrick Hopkins, Carol Monda, Patricia Santomaso, Shezi Sadar, Amanda Thickpenny, and then it says various, and I don't know if that's more narrators or what, but the production of this is so good. You hear the quality differences when she starts the interview tape, and you can hear the interview beginning, and then Pip is having an interview with a person talking about the crime at hand that she is trying to solve personally, this mystery of what happened to these teens who died. It's so fun every time you get to hear the new interview start or like things happening. It's so immersive. It really draws your attention in. It makes you pay attention, and it's just incredibly well done. All of the narrators done a fantastic job, but just having those interviews really stand out, having the, like, hey, even, like, here's the thing, I only listen to audiobooks. My mom actually read the physical book, but you can, like, read the transcripts. It's mixed media in the book as well, so it's also just a quick read and exciting to look through. But if you're wanting to experience it, I do recommend audio or tandem for A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. In the same vein of having just the production quality change a little bit, we have The Adventures of Amina Al-Sarafi by S.A. Chakraborty, narrated by Lamis Isa and Amin El Gamal. I'm so sorry for butchering those. But, oh my goodness. So, Amin Al-Sarafi is already, like, a fantastic pirate adventure story. The last hurrah for this mother pirate who needs to do something in order to, like, you know, get enough money to save her daughter and, like, have a good life in retirement. But the way that the story is told is it's not quite an interview. It's kind of like Amina, the character, is telling the story, but in, like, a studio booth. And so whenever the person assisting this recording of the story interchimes with something, like, direction that Amina should do, Amina will turn away from the microphone, and the quality of sound changes, and you can hear the, like, differences, and, like, oh, it's so good the way that they do it. It's just, it really, like, pulls you in, and you're just, like, listening to the book and she's just telling you the tale of this adventure, and then suddenly she's like, oh wait, hold on, I need to talk to you about this thing. And it's so engaging. It's really just like, it keeps the momentum going, it keeps you excited to keep listening and like see what's gonna happen next. But also, once you get to the end and you see like the relation between these two characters, it's just so precious, and I loved it so much. It's so sweet and so good. And then the last book that I kind of want to talk on for having sound effects in the production of it is Horror Movie by Paul Tremblay. This is narrated by Ari Fliakos, Danny Martinek, Mickey Silo, Michael Crouch, Frankie Corozzo, Stacey Gonzalez, Tyler Corrier, Ariel Blake, Jonathan McLean, Dan Brittner, Eva Kaminsky, Gisela Chip. Whew, names are hard. Last names, so hard. But Horror Movie is a new release that a lot of people were talking about because of the audiobook qualities and production that went into it. This is a book that has a movie transcript inside of it, hence the name Horror Movie. So you're getting the dual timelines of what happened in the past, what's being told to you via this written book from the main character, who is narrating an audiobook to tell you the story of what happened when trying to film the book, or when trying to film the horror movie, and then the future of like getting it back in track, making it happen again, getting it reproduced. And so you get to have the cast read you the manuscript. You can hear the pages turning when they're turning the page with you, and like sometimes the only thing that I will critique this for not being like the best of the best is that one of the narrators, like when reading her lines, would mess up and like have to go back and like restate the sentence. And I think that's fine for like the immersion and having that experience of like listening to somebody read in a room around a table. You're reading a script together for the first time. Like it definitely fits that vibe correctly because people mess up, and that's normal. But it would also mess me up when I'm like trying to read along. I'm like, where are we if you're messing up words? And so that was my only personal issue, but I still think like the production of it is fantastic and incredible, and I do want people to check it out. The last in this little like cool production set books that I have for you is The Honeys by Ryan LaSala, narrated by Pete Cross. This is not a high production audiobook in the sense of having like a big full cast or anything, but it is horror. And it is centered around like a summer camp and the honeys, and has a lot of sound effects for when spooky things happen specifically. And when you hear it, bzzz, all the buzzing bees, it is so freaking cool. I absolutely loved listening to this at work. It was such an awesome experience. It was one of the first audiobooks that like introduced me into like graphic audiobooks are a thing, and it was the first time like I had sound effects that like really like surprised me and shocked me in like such a good way. It's already such a fun summer YA horror book that I highly recommend, but every time something spooky would start to happen and you just hear bees buzzing in your ear as scary things are going on, oh, it's so good. It really hooked me in. It really like made me excited. I know some people don't love sound effects in their books, but gosh, I'm a sucker for it. I love it so dearly. Now, I'm gonna softball my top 4 just audiobooks, no production involved, just narrating a book to me. These are gonna be my top 4 from my least favorite to my favorite. And we're gonna start at least favorite because I don't actually know if the audiobook was that good for this book, and I don't actually like super widely recommend this book. I think that it's good. I think it's a great horror. I think it's very scary and very spooky, and I do recommend it, but I also recommend it with the caveat of like, hey, this is a white man writing a very indigenous heavy story, so take that how you wish. If it's portrayed well or not is not something that I can speak on, but I do want people to know that going into it. With that said, I'm talking about Stolen Tongues by Felix Blackwell, narrated by J.S. Arquin. Holy cow, this book is scary. And listening to it is like a whole other scare factor that I was personally not prepared for. Especially the beginning chapters when they are in, like, I think their vacation rental, if not their home, but there is this parrot. And it is so scary. I listened to this in the dark, eyes shut, just listening to the book whilst resting on the couch. And I was so terrified. I genuinely was like, this makes me uncomfortable. And I've never had that experience in an audiobook before. I've never had a narration creep me out so much. But oh, it was so spooky. So if you're looking for a horror and you're like ready to get a little scared from a parrot, Oh, I highly do recommend. It was so spooky. And then the next one I have is a standalone little category, which is Know My Name by Chanel Miller, narrated by the author Chanel Miller. This is a nonfiction memoir of Jane Doe in the Brock Turner Stanford case. Chanel Miller was Jane Doe and decided to write and speak on her experience of going through like the trials and the courts and how people acted and treated her because of all of this and the trauma that it's completely caused her and just unraveling in her life, but also that hope that she could hold on to and having a strong family and support system. It is one of the best books I have read. It's definitely one of the best nonfiction memoirs I have ever read. It's well written. I think Chanel Miller is incredibly talented, but also narrates it, and it's so touching and kind of hard to listen to because like it's her sharing her story, but there is just something special about an author narrating their own book. I'm actually currently reading a book where the author narrates it. It's fiction, but there's just something special like them being able to tell the story how they want. I know that Travis Baldree, for example, is a narrator by like job and then became a writer and narrates Legends and Lattes and Bookshops and Bone Dust, which is so cool. And that's definitely on my like want to read list because of it. And so it's just one of those cool things where I like authors getting that chance and experience to tell the story how they envisioned, being able to stop on the proper words that they think like need the emphasis and so on and so forth. It's just Chanel Miller did an incredible job. It's a hard-hitting story. It's very touching. It's very well done. And I do recommend, even if you don't want to listen to the audiobook, you just got to read the book no matter what. That's just a requirement of life, okay? And now we are down to the top 2 audiobooks that I just love and highly recommend to absolutely anybody ever. The first one, Red Rising by Pierce Brown, narrated by Tim Gerald Reynolds, who I don't know if is in the graphic audiobook narrations. Red Rising, with all the hype and love that it deserves. Sorry, big fan. But it got the like graphic audio part 1s, part 2s released, and slowly they're making their way through the series. I don't know if Tim is also narrating in those or not, but golly gee, Tim is an incredible narrator. I loved listening to Red Rising. It was such a good experience. I cried on chapter 5, y'all. It's sci-fi, but it's so freaking good. It's definitely got, the first book especially, has got like a little bit of a Hunger Games feel, and some people don't like that about it, and some people love that about it. And then it just completely devolves from there because it becomes so politically intriguing, and there's just a lot going on, and we're in space. Oh, but Tim does such a good job. He is such an incredible narrator for it. He's got like that Irish-Scottish dialect perfectly down for Darrow, and it just sounds heavenly. He's got a good voice, and you just want to listen to it. You just want to hear all about it. And so I definitely loved his narration for Red Rising. I'm so happy that it exists in the world, and it's something that I can just listen to whenever I please, however often I please. I love it. I love it. It's so good. And the last one that I have to talk about, absolutely, will you be surprised? Probably not, is A Dowry of Blood by S.T. Gibson, narrated by Abby Creighton. Holy crap. Abby Creighton fits the gothic atmosphere for A Dowry of Blood so perfectly. The way, kudos to S.T. Gibson, for starters, for writing such a beautiful book with such beautiful prose that is just absolutely gorgeously beautifully written, and I just could not sing enough high praise for A Dowry of Blood. It is dark, it is twisted, it is beautiful, it is gut-wrenching, and I love it. It's polyamorous, and I just love every little character so much. I care for them deeply. I've never been so captured by a book. A Dowry of Blood is one of the first audiobooks that if not the first audiobook that I fell absolutely head over heels in love with, and like screamed to the rooftop is the best that I've listened to. It's just the way that everything felt so perfect and right, listening to it and reading these words, and just the blend of it all just felt incredible. And it's an experience that I hope everybody gets to have someday. It is absolutely one of my top favorite audiobooks of all time, on top of it already being one of my favorite books of all time, because it's just incredible. It's just so good. It's a Dracula's Bride retelling told in letters of a person healing from trauma and like writing letters to their abuser, basically. And it's so good. I know that a lot of people have been disappointed with S.T. Gibson since A Dowry of Blood, because it was just like, how, like, when you write the perfect book, you can't go anywhere else from there. Like, you've done it. Everything else might fall a little bit in comparison. But I've still enjoyed their writing, even though it's not like the same pedestal, it's not the same book. I've also read previous books that came out prior to A Diary of Blood, and so like A Diary of Blood is definitely a special book on its own, but goodness, Abby really just brings everything to life and the character to life, and I just loved that experience. It's so good. Now, those are my favorite ones that I absolutely love and adore, and I figured I would share with you a couple that I've been recommended and I've seen around a lot that I have on my want to read list of audiobooks that I must listen to. The first one is Sadie by Courtney Summers. I own this book. It's also got a podcast element, and everyone says that it is a phenomenal audiobook. Brandon Sanderson books in general, I hear, are just well produced and well done. Project Hail Mary, I think this is also an Audible exclusive, but everyone says that just one narrator does it super well and just emphasizes everything just right and just makes you feel a little claustrophobic and everything, and so I'm definitely looking forward to that. Also, Lord of the Rings. I've listened to The Hobbit. It was the character who voiced Gollum, and I do recommend it. But Lord of the Rings, I am excited to continue that audiobook journey and experience. I thought that they are well done. There's just something about like men with accents reading me a story. It's cozy, and I feel great about it. But yes, Lord of the Rings is definitely a series that I want to continue and finish, and I'm excited for the experience. There's two very popular narrators for Lord of the Rings, and I don't remember which one I picked, but one of them was the right one, and the other one I was like, you're okay. So that's also the hard part, when you don't know which ones are the right ones to listen to. So I have to do research for Lord of the Rings especially. And the final one that I'm going to shout out is Neil Gaiman books, especially American Gods is the like very popular one, and like Nevermore. Those are the two that I see the most that I'm intrigued in. I read some Neil Gaiman, definitely want to continue. Neil Gaiman himself narrates Coraline and also Norse mythology, and they are both very good audiobooks. He does a great job narrating. I don't know if like that's a normal profession for him or if it's just because his books are so popular. I'm not sure what the tea is on that, but I think Neil Gaiman does a good job, and he's, very popular. A lot of these authors that get really nice audiobook productions are usually because they're of grand series or have been writing for a long time and are just like incredibly popular, and so I guess that makes sense. But yes, Neil Gaiman is definitely on the list of authors that I want to continue listening to their books. I listened to Good Omens as well, but that audiobook was like okay, not quite as good as Norse mythology especially. But those are my top like 5 audiobooks that I want to get to. Please, if you have any wonderful audiobooks that you love and adore for one reason or another, leave them in the comments down below. I'm always listening to audiobooks, and I would always like to add more to the TBR. It's a never-ending list of books to read, but I will not stop. You can't stop me. I will keep listening till the day I die. So if you have recommendations, please drop them down below for me and other fellow readers who might be looking for some good books. And I will see you guys all tomorrow. Bye.